Okay guys, Ramon here, and I would have received a question from one of my clients and from a couple other people about exercises for the inner thigh and exercises that would help build the muscles of the inner thigh. Now the inner thigh or the adductor muscles, that group of muscles is responsible for maintaining a good straight position of the pelvis, especially during sports movements, especially when we need to move from side to side. We need to be able to resist the motions that are occurring during that sport or during that activity. Now, what the adductor is really responsible for is moving that leg from outwards, inwards. Just as simply as that, outward to in. So any exercise that we do that pulls the leg from an adducted position outside of the body and pulls it in to the midline of the body is actually an exercise for the adductors. But in this video, I'm going to demonstrate a couple exercises that will be primarily for building the muscles of that groin into that inner knee area all the way down the leg, so that we have better stability inside of the hips and so that we have stronger adductor muscles going down that leg. All right. Okay guys, today, as I would have mentioned before, we are talking about the adductors of the hip. We are talking about the inner muscles of the leg and building and strengthening those muscles that we want to work. All right. So if we wanted to deal with just strengthening the inside of the leg, we can vary from things like wide stance squats all the way to something called a Copenhagen plank. All right. But what I'll do in this video is that I'll talk about some of the things that you can do, and I will demonstrate in between what exactly I would recommend you do in order for you to build those leg muscles. Alright? Now the first exercise that I would recommend is a really easy exercise for most people that would help us to build the muscles of the inner leg. It's just a wide stance squat. From the time we hit that wide position, we actually activate a lot more of the inner adductors and not so much of the glutes as we might think. So inner thighs actually work a lot harder when we open the stance of our legs as we squat. Now this works for squats, this works for deadlifts in a sumo position. That is also an adductor exercise that will also hit the inner thigh. Alright? We're moving on to activities that ask us to step out and return to position. Now, any exercise where we are stepping away from the body, it stretches that adductor muscle, but when we return is when we contract that adductor muscle. So when we go out and we stretch and we return, we are actively working that adductor muscle. But if we really wanted to get an even bigger work from that muscle, what we could do, we could grab a weight, we could go in to that same wide stance position, we lunge out. What we would do, we would pull that weight in and move it out. So we go again, we're here, we pull that weight in, we move it back out. Wide stance again, here, pull that weight in. We can do that without a weight. We can just have the leg maybe on your socks on a nice tile, and we go out, we squat out, we pull that leg in. We squat out, and we pull that leg in. That work, that movement of the leg coming from the outside of the body into the midline directly works the inner thigh. Okay? Now, if we really wanted to get really deep into inner thigh work, we could always grab a band. And as I said before, anything where we are coming from the outside of the body and come into midline, works the inner thigh. So if we have a hip adduction, adduction means that we are coming from the outside in to the inside of the body. Alright? So if we're performing hip abduction exercises, we will grab that band, we will come from outside, and we will pull it in. Outside, in. Outside, in. So all this is doing is working the muscles of the inner thigh as we're pulling on that band inside. Alright? Now if we wanted to grab a couple more exercises, maybe we go down to the ground and we're working another hip adduction exercise. We can go down to the ground. Right. We can go down to the ground. We lie on our side. We straighten out one leg and we bend the next. So from here, what we're actually going to do is lift that leg that is straight up and back down. Up and back down. Well, this is a great exercise for the inner thigh, but you just want to make sure that you are not pushing too hard with this other leg. It's just there for support, and we're moving that leg up and back down. Alright, if I was to change the angle so you can see it a little better. Good, coming from here, up and down. All of this is inner thigh work. All this is inner hip work also. Alright, now if we wanted to use a ball, again, any movement from outside of the body, from the legs outside, legs open to midline, is a hip inner thigh activity. So if we're here, we have our feet bent and we're squeezing against the ball and releasing, we are working those groin muscles. We are working those inner thigh muscles also. Alright? So we squeeze and we release. We squeeze and we release. If we wanted to make that even harder, we could always extend the feet some more. Grab onto that ball and we squeeze and release. We squeeze and we release. Or we can hold that squeeze for some time and turn it into an isometric contraction for the inner thighs. Now lastly, a great exercise for inner thighs. I'm going to grab my trusty chair. Alright, good. A great exercise would be Copenhagen planks. Now a Copenhagen plank is mostly used for sports athletes, but it's a great activity for the inner thigh and strengthening the muscles of the inner thigh. So we're on our side. We're going to make sure our glutes are pushed all the way in, hips are forward, and from here we raise up, we go back down. This is a Copenhagen raise. We go up, we come back down. We go up, we come back down, or we go up to the top and we hold for some time. Now if we wanted to regress this, what we would actually need to do is bend the knee to reduce the range of motion. So we have a nice bent knee here, and we're just going to shut that range so that it's easier to perform without stressing any of the joints that might have had some trouble when our feet were straight. Alright, so that has been inner thigh exercise demonstrations, and the thing about it, remember guys, anytime we go from outside of the body to midline is an inner thigh activity. The only time when it's not is when we hit that really wide squat, but we're still acting up and down and still causing a stretch and contraction of the inner thigh as we squat. Okay? Now, all those exercises are great. You can do them for reps. You can hold positions. You can do all of that. But it's great to have a personal trainer who can program those things for you so that you are doing them in the right manner. All right. But those are all really great exercises for the muscles of the inner thigh. And as usual, guys, thank you for watching.